This is Radar for On the Radar Entertainment Blog, coming to you with another edition of Movie Reviews and Observation number 32. So, I had finished that huge pile last week, and now I'm on like a small pile I got. And the first movie I watched, you go, okay, it's got Anne Hathaway playing the wife. It's got Mark Ruffalo as the lawyer. It's based on a true story of water being poisoned. It has Victor Garber, this famous actor who recently was on Legend of Tomorrow. So it had the guy who played Firestorm and Mark Ruffalo, who's been the Hulk. And I really liked Mark Ruffalo. Did a very good job with the character. They were telling a true story, but it's one of those biopic, like based on true story movies that's 2 hours long drama. And sometimes you're like, oh my god, it's annoying that it's 2 hours long. But overall, it was an okay movie based on his, factual thing. And, it's like, okay, cool. They did a good job of telling the story. That's it. So it's like an average movie, most of all. Then I watched Clemency, and you're like, okay, maybe this woman named Alfred Woodard did a great job in her role. But the box says it's like 2 hours and 2 minutes. You Google it, it says it's more than 2 hours. Then when the movie ends abruptly, an hour and 45 to almost an hour 50 minutes to it, just abruptly ends. You're like, okay, cool. The movie is about a woman who's like a warden and all the tolls it takes on executing people with a death penalty. And you're just like, cool. I see this Richard Schiff from The Good Doctor's in it. You see Wendell Pierce, who you've seen in a lot of movies, and Aldous Hodge's been in movies. You're like, okay, I've seen actors before. Monica Garrett was in it, so it's like, cool. I've seen some of these actors on scattered television shows or movie, but it was like, it didn't really grip me. It was too long. You're just like, even though it ended abruptly, it felt like it was dragging on. So Clemency, not so great. Then on my off day, I said, why don't I watch another long movie? Because this is me not going back to work because I had surgery last week. And I watched a movie that was A, black and white, so okay. B, it's an hour and 135-minute movie. So it's 2 hours and 15 minutes. You're like, okay, I gotta sit through a black and white 2 hour plus movie. Then you go, oh, it's in Spanish? Okay, fine. And when I watch movies with subtitles, I try to read as much of the subtitles as possible to figure out what's going on. Sometimes you don't need to. You understand the context by just hearing the sounds on the screen and see what they're doing. But this movie was just about like some person, trying to take care of their children and stuff, and it wasn't that exciting. It's just have a movie where you miss a couple of scenes or even 10, 20 minutes, you don't really miss that much. So yeah, when it's a long movie, it's a black and white, it's another language, you lose me on trying to get my attention. And then when the movie's not a good movie, it's just, not worth it, Roma. Then I watched a movie that, because like the Dark Waters, is based off a true story with the people at Fox News and Roger Ailes and, what's her name, Megyn Kelly, and it's like, okay, cool. And Charlize Theron plays Megyn Kelly, but like 95% of the movie, when she was on camera, I don't know if it was makeup they did to her, CGI effects, whatever it is, she did not look like Charlize Theron. It did not look like her whatsoever. It must be some sort of technology. There were some scenes where it looked like her, but like the other 97% of the movie, it didn't look like her. It didn't look like Megyn Kelly. It just looked like a different blonde lady. It did not look like her. I don't know what they did, but it's like, it doesn't really look like her throughout the movie. And you're like, you know what she looks like. You saw her in Mad Max Fury. Have you seen her in a bunch of other movies? You're like, yeah. Like the one with Seth Rogen where she was president and stuff. Is like, yeah. Or running for president and stuff. Is like, it doesn't look like her. And then Nicole Kidman played another employee who's disgruntled. Margot Robbie played a new employee that did a good job at casting actors that look like Bill O'Reilly, Hannity, all the women that worked for the company and stuff. That was like, they did that. Then they got, in the movie, you see Malcolm McDowell plays the head of the company. You saw him briefly. Connie Britton played, the guy's wife. John Lithgow. You could tell it was John Lithgow, but in a fat suit. And lots of horrible makeup to look like this old man who was, sexually harassing and asking for sexual favors from female employees and whatnot. And yeah, based off a true story. And when the movie's only an hour 40 minutes, and it's based off a true story, and there's really good acting by the men and the women in this movie, you're like, that's probably the best movie I watched this week. And you wouldn't think that would be the best, but it was pretty good. Then I watched Jojo Rabbit, where it's like, okay, the guy, Taika Waititi, whatever his name is. Oh, he did Thor Ragnarok, and he did and he's behind, one of the people behind, What We Do in the Shadow. Oh, he's a funny guy. So let's make a movie about Nazis, where most times Nazi movies are where they're evil. This one is about Nazi youth and Sam Rockwell being an injured soldier who's like teaching the youth stuff. But then he, Taika Waititi, he's playing the imaginary Hitler friend of this young boy who wants to be a Nazi and work for Hitler. and Rebel Wilson plays one of the officers and one of the secretaries. Then I saw Alfie Allen, who I just saw recently. He's in the movie. Stephen Merchant is somebody I've seen before in movies. And then the kid has got a friend. But then this plot is like Scarlett Johansson, who's barely in the movie, who's actually Jewish. It's like, do you really want to be, making fun of like how Nazis treated Jews? Like Rebel Wilson, she's not Jewish. Sam Rockwell, I'm not sure if he's Jewish or not. Some of these guys are not Jewish. It's fine, but she's barely moved. She plays the kid's mother, but then she's trying to save a girl. Like in the Holocaust, hide them and stuff. And the kid finds her, and is he gonna be a good Nazi boy and turn him in or not? He falls for her, yada yada yada. And it was just like at the end of the war, so it was like kind of pointless and silly at the end. And when you're like going through a bunch of movies you watch, and there are a lot of drama or foreign films, and they're like, I did something stupid. Oh, this was pretty stupid, the movie, and you got some laughs in it. It's an odd movie in general, so it's really more of an acquired taste to watch Jojo Rabbit, but it was okay. And then I watched The Weekend, where it's a typical rom-comedy where just because you're single and the other person's single, you're together. So this girl was single for 3 years after her boyfriend broke up with her and has to be friends. The mother owns some sort of like lodging place. They're there for the weekend, and he goes, you know what? Even though I'm not dating her, but I'm still friends with the family, I might as well bring my new girlfriend to the weekend party that's over there. That's why it's called The Weekend They Spend Together. And it's just like, that's a good idea, because of course your ex-girlfriend's not going to get along with your new girlfriend. And then another guy whose girlfriend he was dating for 9 years or something, they moved, and on the way moving, they were going to stay at this place over the weekend before they go to the place. But the woman broke up with him, so he's single, and she's single, and they're together. I don't know. And then you're like, Tone Bell. I've seen him before. I just saw him on Fam. He was okay in that. He was okay in this one. But Shazir Zamata from SNL, she plays a stand-up comedian who's single and has issues. That's really what she is in real life. She's a stand-up comedian. She's from SNL. So she herself does a good job, and she's pretty funny in Tone Bell, but it's just like very cliche, and it's also the type of movie where it's like, an hour and 20-something minutes. It's very cheesy, cliche rom-com. You can sit through that, especially when you've had a long week. You're like, I just want something funny. Don't want to invest too much time, so it's perfect for that. So it's okay. It's not amazing. Then, the other week I saw Midway, and that's 2 hours plus. But in the 2 hours plus, it was fighting with the planes and the ships, and there's a lot of things going on. And there are actors you've seen in television shows or movie, but you can't place their name. Then you got the big-time actors like Dennis Quaid are in there and whatnot. And Aaron Eckhart. You can name all the people that were in there. Mandy Moore. This one, you're like, who's in this movie? Oh, wait. Benedict Cumberbatch has a small role? Mark Strong has a small role in this movie. But it's about these two soldiers who have to tell their other British soldiers not to attack because it could be a trap in World War I by the Germans. And, of course, cliche. He has to do everything possible. He's got to survive everything just to get there. He's got to convince people that he's telling the truth, and you think and it's like just the greatest story about this one soldier trying to get there and stuff. And it was okay. And the good thing going for it wasn't 2 hours plus like Midway, but it was an hour and 40 something, almost hour 50 something minutes, and there was a lot of like talking and drama, so it wasn't as exciting as Midway. The only thing going for it is it was a lot shorter, but this was a British point of view of World War I, while Midway is an American view of World War II. So, it's okay. I would probably say that Bombshell was the best movie I watched, and this is probably the second best, but that's just because it was a historical movie based off a true story. And then I watched a 2.5-hour movie where I never heard of this movie being so great, called The House That Jack Built, where Matt Dillon, guess what? He did a great job at putting on a role where the guy's like, the director and writer goes, you're going to play this role for over 2.5 hours, and it's just going to be mostly you in the movie talking. He's like, okay, cool. So he really got into the role, and I'm glad for him. But it's a 2.5-hour movie where it's like, it's so good. This copy here has a theatrical and a director's cut, which is underrated. Like, do I need both? Does it matter? So he's basically playing a serial killer, and they have the screen say there are 5 episodes, murder into one of 5 people he killed. And then there's hell and all the stuff in there. Uma Thurman's in there, if in terms of people you heard of, Riley Cogan. And you're just like, okay. But it was really boring. And not that exciting, and just creepy and weird. And then Library did a good job of putting dramas there because it was not a horror film. This movie is not anything you should waste your time unless you're like a Matt Dillon fanatic. I liked him in Wayward Pines and a few movies here and there, but I don't love Matt Dillon. So this is a 2.5-hour movie. Don't waste your time. 1917 is one of those historical films. You know what? Watch it. You may actually like it more than I do. The Weekend, if you're looking for a quick comedy, Jojo Rabbit, if you're looking for odd comedy, their kind of average. Bombshell was probably the best one I watched. Don't waste your time with Roma. It's too long and it's just not great. Clemency, it's more of it. You really want to. It's more the acting of the main person. And Dark Waters, Mark Ruffalo, and based off a true story, did a pretty good job. Thanks for listening to another edition of Movie Reviews and Observation number 32. For On the Radar Entertainment Blog, I'm Radar. See you guys next time.